During the last class period, we talked about sentence patterns 1 through 5. Now we're going to wrap up with patterns 6 and 7, the related reading, pages 25 to 37 of your textbook. First, a little refresher of pattern 5. You have your subject, a transitive verb, which demands a direct object. The direct object receives or is affected by the verb's action. Our examples: the student needed what? Biology. Too many people took that algebra class. Our action moves from left to right. Needed biology. Pattern 6 also has a subject and a transitive verb. Then we have an indirect object before our direct object. Both of these are noun phrases. The transitive verb is still impacting the direct object, and then our action sort of bounces back from right to left. The direct object is given to or received by the indirect object. Could that be any more indirect? Let's look at some examples. The student gave. Transitive verb, we need an object. What did the student give? The student gave me. Well, unless someone is giving me away in marriage, the student gave something to me. The student gave me what? Her book. The student gave what? Her book to me. And you might be thinking, well, why don't you just say it that way? That's one of the great things about pattern 6. It is flexible. Our action works from right to left. Her book is given to me. So the student gave her book to me. It's almost like a circle going counterclockwise. Too many schools offered the teacher another job. What the schools are offering is another job, and that job is offered to the teacher. How can we use pattern 6? You can move your indirect object to a prepositional phrase. I might say she loaned me her book, or I might say she loaned her book to me. We tend to stress what comes at the end of a sentence. If I want to be really exaggerated, she loaned me her book. She loaned her book to me. Do I want to focus more on what has been given or who is receiving it? So you simply take your indirect object and move it to a prepositional phrase, to me. What if I add a noun phrase? She loaned me her book, a first edition. If I want to stress how valuable this book is, I might want to go with a traditional pattern 6. But if I want to stress that, oh my gosh, this book is being loaned to me, of all people, I might put it in the prepositional phrase. She loaned her book, a first edition, to me. She trusted me with this book. Finally, pattern 7. We always have to have a subject because we're talking about sentences. Transitive verb. And what does a transitive verb demand? A direct object. And then we have an object complement. So this is an adjective or a noun phrase that describes our direct object. This might remind you a little bit of pattern 3, where we had a subject complement. Now we have an object complement. Examples: the school calls, subject, transitive verb, calls who or what? The new teacher, direct object. And then amazing is our adjective, which is describing the new teacher, our direct object. You can easily change this into a pattern 2 sentence. Direct object, the new teacher, be verb, is, and then amazing becomes our new subject complement. We could say the new teacher seems amazing. Make a pattern 3 sentence. Whatever sentence pattern you're using, you can add optional adverbials. These adverbials are optional only grammatically. For your meaning, to get your message across to an audience, they're not so optional. A lot of times your readers need to know when, where, why, and how. Adverbials can be prepositional phrases, dependent clauses, or even infinitive phrases. Here's an example. I got up. This is a grammatical sentence. I got up. But if I simply said this to a friend, I got up, the person would probably say, so? Or when? Oh, I got up early. Why? I got up early to study. To study for what? For my Spanish test, of course. So we have a when, and then an infinitive plus a prepositional phrase for why. There are actually 3 optional adverbials in this sentence. What I'd like you to do now is to go to page 30 in our textbook. You want to look for exercise 5. Look at sentences 3, 4, 5, and 8, and I want you to strip them down to their core, a subject, a predicate, and go ahead and leave any adjectives. Once you have done this in your advanced grammar notebook or on your scratch paper or whatever you're using, think about what do we lose when we take the adverbials out. Go ahead and pause the video while you take the time to do this. Have you paused it yet? Wow, you're really fast. You finished all 4 sentences in like 15 seconds. Pause the video. Let's look at number 3 as an example. During World War II is an optional adverbial. It tells us when. The government required. There's my subject and my transitive verb. The government required. Required what? Then I get my direct object, large amounts of copper. That is my basic sentence. The last part, for war production, tells me why. And there's my prepositional phrase. So if I strip number 3 down, I get the government required large amounts of copper. Most people would want to know, when did this happen? Today? Last year? Oh, during World War II, several decades ago. Why? This just goes to show that optional adverbials are kind of crucial for meaning. This is not something that I ask you to do, but I wanted to illustrate, once again, one of the defining characteristics of adverbials is their movability. Here's our original. I have my 2 adverbials that tell me when and why. I can completely flip it. For war production, the government required copper during World War II. I can embed my when in between my subject and my transitive verb. The government during World War II required copper for war production. I can put them both at the end. The government required copper for war production during World War II. This is how I know I'm dealing with adverbials. These phrases can move around the sentence. These phrases can move around the sentence with ease. Which version do you like best? It might depend on the rhythm. You might like a particular rhythm the best. It might depend on, in a paper, what sentence comes before or after this. It might depend on where you want to place your emphasis. Do you want to emphasize the when, the why, the who? Bottom line is, adverbials give you so many choices for how you structure a sentence, whether it's pattern 1 or pattern 7. I do want to take a moment to review some vocabulary, some quick terms that you're probably going to want to know if you're a teacher. We have a declarative, which is a simple statement, an interrogative, that's a question, and then we have imperatives, which are commands. The implied subject in an imperative sentence is you. You go home. You do this. And imperatives are actually quite memorable. Here's some famous ones from literature. The first line of Moby Dick by Herman Melville, a classic of American romanticism. Call me Ishmael. It wouldn't be as memorable if he said, my name is Ishmael. Many junior high students still read The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, where one character memorably says to his friend, stay gold, pony boy, stay gold, in a reference to Robert Frost's poem, Nothing Gold Can Stay. And finally, Dante tells us in the Divine Comedy, abandon all hope. Don't discount the power of a good imperative or command. See the sign? It says pay attention. Here's why. You're about to see 2 classroom activities, and these are going to form the basis of your quiz. When you get to the quiz, it's going to ask, what are your comments on the first lesson? What are your comments on the second lesson? So you're doing the right thing. You're watching the video. Here's the first lesson, grade 4. It challenges students to rewrite the sentences and basically to take a pattern 6 and then bump the direct object out to a prepositional phrase. Is this valuable? Do students need to do it 5 different times? Should students be thinking about which one they like better? We sent the reporters a photograph. We sent a photograph to the reporters. Are 4th graders going to have a preference? What do you think about this lesson? That'll be your first quiz question. Your second and last quiz question will be about this lesson for grade 11. It gives students 12 different verbs and then the actual sentence patterns. You would be teaching these 11th graders transitive verbs, direct objects, object complements, and students would have to write 5 different sentences. Remember, high school students are aiming for more variety in their writing. Is this a good lesson? Can you see yourself teaching it? Which of these verbs are transitive and which are intransitive? Hopefully you and your students will know that be is a linking verb. Is this too much to ask? Is it too easy? These are things you want to think about as you prepare your response for the quiz. The quiz also will give you an opportunity to leave any comments or continued questions you have about sentence patterns. So if you're confused about something, or if you've had a flash of enlightenment, here's a way that we can remember these or use these, please let me know.